Hi there. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, English Wind. Today it is total immersion. The total immersion next level. Why should I say so? So I have done a good number of videos of total immersion English, and most of them are stories. And I wanted you to be immersed in the language, English language. That is total immersion. When you are immersed in the language, you learn the language. As Professor Stephen Krashen says, you learn a language when you understand messages. What sort of messages? That is written messages, or when we speak, when people speak, if you are listening to them, if you understand, that is total immersion, if you understand them. So that is it. So now I'm going to the next level. That is, some people have requested that is, they need a sort of a next level total immersion. So I'm going to next level. Okay, right. Thank you very much for suggesting. And the next level is actually I have selected in next level the difference between the 150 total immersion videos I have done earlier and the videos now I'm doing is that I'm not going to explain things away that much, because when you go through these 150 or at least 50 total immersion videos, you happen to come to a state that you can understand what other people say. Things like that. It happens naturally. And there is a PDF below. Download it and read it, and you would find that it works. Because some comments of our subscribers or the viewers, I have collected few things, and it is in the form of a PDF. So you can read it if you want to see whether this is working. Okay. Today's total immersion is of letters. Letters written by a father to his daughter. Nehru, Sri Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru. Nehru, letters from a father to his daughter. So really interesting. And I think there are 30 letters, as I know. Yeah, 30 letters. And he is talking about the world, the history of the world history basically, from the beginning. And at that time, Indira Gandhi was of 10 years old, and he was writing letters as they cannot meet. Srinagar is writing letters to Indira Gandhi at, I think, Allahabad, Missouri, whatever it is. And the collection of letters now, it has come as a book. Yes, we are going to the first chapter. The book of nature. The book of nature. It's a bit long, but I'm not going to explain things away that much, okay? Yeah. I'm going to read. When you and I are together, you often ask me questions about many things and I try to answer them. When you and I are together, when we were together, you often ask me questions about many things to Indira Gandhi, and I try to answer them. Now that you are at Musurio, and in Allahabad, we cannot have these talks. Now the problem is actually, now Sri Nehru is in Missouri Indira Gandhi is in Missouri, and I am in Allahabad. We cannot have these talks. Problem, father and daughter. No more talks between. Yeah. Today, so we have sort of chats, right? But those days, I think this was 1929, basically. Yeah, the book was written, letters were written. I try to answer them. Now that you are at Missouri and I'm in Allahabad, so we cannot have these talks. I'm therefore going to write to you from time to time short accounts of the story of our earth and the many countries, great and small, in which it is divided. Oh, I'm therefore going to write to you from time to time. Time to time, I'm going to write to you letters. From time to time, short accounts of the story, descriptions, short accounts of the story of our earth. The many countries, there are many countries, great and small. Maybe countries can be small, maybe countries can be great, great and small, in which it is divided. Yeah, the world has been divided into countries. They are great, they are small, and things like that. Yeah, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you an idea about how it happened. That is what he is going to say. It is divided. You have read a little about English history and Indian history. You have read a little about now. She is of 10 years old, yeah, and Nehru knows that she has read a lot about history. That is basically history of England and history of India, but it's little. You have read little about English history and Indian history, but England is only a little island. English, England is only a little island. Yeah, England is only a little island, he says. Yeah, England is only a little island, and India, though a big country, is only a small part of the earth's surface. He says that England is only a little island. England is a little island, but India is not so. India is big. Oh, see how he is going to give an idea of India to his daughter. England is a small island, but India is big. Yeah. But England is only a little island, and India, though a big country, is only a small part of the Earth's surface. Earth's surface is really great. And when tiny part is India, and when you compare India with England, England is much smaller. Oh, if we want to know something about the story of this world of ours, we must think of all the countries and all the peoples that have inhabited it, and not merely of one little country where we may have been born. If we want to know something about the story of this world, if you want to know about this world of ours, we must think of all the countries. If you want to learn about the world, you have to think about all the countries, not India and England or Sri Lanka or whatever. You have to think about all the countries if you are going to learn about the world. If we want to know about something about the story of this world of ours, we must think of all the countries and all the peoples that have inhabited it. Inhabited it means living in it. Inhabited. Habitat is the place of living. Your Miharaka's habitat is Madavagura. Yeah, habitat, a place of living. Yeah. So from habitat, the verb comes inhabited, yeah. And the people that have inhabited it are not merely of one little country where we may have been born. Where we may have been born. I was born here. If I'm going to think about only Sri Lanka, I won't be able to think about the world. If we want to learn about the world history, history of the earth, we have to learn about everything, all the country, about all the countries in this world. Second paragraph. I'm afraid I can only tell you very little in these letters of mine. Yeah. I'm afraid I think I can only tell you very little in these letters of mine. From these letters, you will receive a little amount of things. That is a very small idea about the world. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. Small letters to a very small girl. Yeah. I hope will interest you and make you think of the world as a whole and of other peoples in it as our brothers and sisters. Yeah. I'm afraid I can only tell you very little in these letters of mine. But that little, I hope, I give you a little, but that little is important. Why? But that little, I hope, will interest you. It will be interesting. You would like it very much. Even though it is really a little thing, you would like it very much. I hope will interest you and make you think of the world as a whole. Yeah. I'm going to show you something. It's not really a big thing. It's a very small thing. But that is quite sufficient, enough for you to think about the world as a whole, world as one thing, not India, not Sri Lanka, not England. The world is one thing. Yeah, very good idea. I hope will interest you and make you think of the world as a whole and of other peoples in it, and not only the world and the other peoples in it as our brothers and sisters. As our brothers and sisters. They are our brothers and sisters. See how Sri Nehru is going to inculcate the idea. Giving that little girl the idea of everybody in this world, they are our brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts, not Paradesakkarya. See, and of other people in it as our brothers and sisters. When you grow up, you will read about the story of the earth and her people in fat books, and you will find it more interesting than any other story or novel that you may have read. Oh, yeah. When you grow up, when you become bigger, when you grow up, you will read about the story of the earth. I'm quite sure you're reading about earth because I'm sending you tiny letters, but even though they are really tiny, they are interesting, then you will learn something about the world and it will make you read other fact books about world history. Oh, it happened really. Other people in it as our brothers and sisters. When you grow up, you will read about the story of the earth and a people in fact books. You will read history in fact books. I know that. Yeah. When you grow up, you will read about the story of the earth and her people in fact books, and you will find it more interesting. You will find it more interesting. I know that. You would like the world history very much, and you would find that it's really interesting, more interesting than any other story or novel that you have may read. You may have read good number of novels, but this one is more interesting than sort of novels and other fictions. Third paragraph. You know, of course, that our earth is very, very old, millions and millions of years old. As far as I can remember, 4.6 billions old. Yes. Yeah, 4.6 billion years. Yeah. You know, of course, that our earth is very, very old, millions and millions of years old. And for a long time, there were no men or women living in it. Yeah. And for a long time, there were no men or women living in it. No men, no people in it. Long time ago. You understand? Before the men came, there were only animals. Before men came, there were only animals. What sort of animals? When men came to this world, that was, I cannot remember actually, they were dinosaurs and sort of reptiles dominating the world. And it was Jurassic Park, the film, you remember. In Jurassic Park, they were talking about Jurassic period, and Cretaceous, and then Triassic period. Also different. In the history has been divided into different chapters, time in time scales, and then when mammals, there is you know what mammals are. When mammals started living on this earth, it was dinosaurs. Mammals are just like very tiny rats, the first mammals. Then gradually they evolved, and finally there is the man. That is it. That is what they say. When we came to this world, they were only animals, no human being, apes, trilobites, sort of, not trilobites, apes and different types of arthropods, mollusks, sort of animals. You must have learned all these things in your O levels. Yeah. And for a long time, there were no men and women living in it. Before the men came, there were only animals. And before the animals, there was a time when no kind of life existed on the earth. Before that, even before the animals, no life existed on earth. Existence mean that is the existence, that is being here. No animals there. And before the animals, there was a time when no kind of life existed on the earth. It is difficult to imagine this world of ours, which is so full today of all kinds of animals and men, to be without them. Those days, no animals, no life existed on earth. But it is difficult to imagine this world of ours. It's really difficult to think about this world without life. Oh, no life, no kumbis, no kabargois, oh, sort of animals. Only the world, the earth, no plants, nothing, mere, rocky structure. Oh, the animals. There was a time when no kind of life existed on earth. It is difficult to imagine this world of ours, which is so full of today of all kinds of animals and men, to be without them. How can we imagine this world without animals? Without organisms. Yeah. But scientists, it's very difficult. We say now, no animals those days, nothing, no life. How do we know? How do we know? There was a period without living things. But scientists, those who have studied and taught a great deal about these matters, tell us that there was a time when the earth was too hot for any living being to live on. But when you think about scientists, they have done a number of experiments and using a method called scientific method. Maybe you have learned about scientific method, yeah? Using scientific method. But scientists and those who have studied and thought a great deal about these matters tell us what? That there was a time when the earth was too hot for any living being to live on. There was a time the earth was really, really hot and nobody would live in it. Yeah. It was really a molten, rocky thing. When rocks mold, you just think about the temperature, maybe 5,000 degrees of Celsius or so. So how can a living being being there? There was a time when the earth was too hot for a living being to live on it. And if we read their books, if we read their books, if we read their books, what is that? Shall we see what he's trying to say? And if we read their books and study the rocks and the fossils, and if we read their books mean most probably about books about evolution, books about rock, books about that time scale of the earth, things like that, books and study the rocks and the fossils. When we study the rocks and the fossils, you know what fossils are? Fossils of dinosaurs, fossils of other animals, fossils of Balanguda Manavaya, things like that. Fossils basically are things that what remains after organisms died and buried in this earth. Yeah, because when we die, when we are buried, nothing remains. Bacteria and microorganisms, other tiny things will, do the job, and you won't be able to find at a cycle after 100 years. Clear, yeah. So, but those days when the world was different, for some reason, yeah, because of the sort of what do we call the condition, the temperature, and things like that. Microorganisms did not harm the skeletons and things like that. And that is about fossils. You learn about fossils in grade 9 science. Yeah. The rocks and fossils, the remains of old animals. We can ourselves see that this must have been so. We can see when we read books, when we study about rocks and when we study about fossils, we understand that this has happened. That is evolution, gradual change of the earth. You read history in books. Yeah, we read history in books. Yes or no? Yes. History, Sri Lankan history, or whatever it is, different countries, history of India, or things like that. We read them in books, fat books. You read history in books. But in old times when men did not exist, surely no books could have been written. Yeah, a fact. But in old times, now we have books. When you go to a library, you would find good number of books, and there are e-books now. And if you want to study something, if you want to know about something, you can read all these books. No problem. Yeah. But those days, the bacteria cannot write books. The people write books. But how can we get an idea about the world without human being? No books written. Clear? Yeah. How can that be? Yeah. You read history in books, but in old times when men did not exist, surely no books could have been written. Yeah. But in old times when men did not exist, surely no books could have been written. No books written in those days. Yeah. How then can we find out what happened then? How can we find out? Yeah, it's really difficult to find out what happened those days. You understand? How then can we find out what happened then? We cannot merely sit down and imagine everything. We cannot merely sit down and imagine everything. We cannot merely sit down, just sit down. Merely, go, hey. We cannot merely sit down and imagine everything. So it's really, really, really easy for us to sit somewhere, just sit and imagine how things happen. This could have been this way and so. Yeah. He's going to talk about that. So he says, how then can we find out what happened then? We cannot merely sit down and imagine everything. This would be very interesting. If we are going to do that, it would be really interesting, just like fairy tales. We cannot merely sit down and imagine everything. This would be very interesting, for we could imagine anything we wanted to and would thus make up the most beautiful fairy tales. If we are going to do that, we make a very beautiful fairy tales. We cannot merely sit down and imagine everything. This would be very interesting for means because we could imagine anything we wanted to and would thus make up the most beautiful fairy tales. But this need not be true, as it would not be based on any facts that we have seen. But this may not be true because we haven't seen facts, the important pieces of evidence we haven't seen. So how can you say exactly what happened those days? Yeah, we cannot do that. This would be interesting, for we could imagine anything we wanted to and would thus make up the most beautiful fairy tales. But this need not be true, as it would not be based on any facts that we had seen. But although we have no books written in those far off days, even though we have no books written in those far off days, fortunately, we have some things which tell us a great deal, as well almost as a book would. What's that? But although we have no books written in those far off days, in those far off days, no books written, no books. Fortunately, yeah, we have some things which tell us a great deal. There are things that tell us a great deal about that story. Great deal as well, almost as a book would. He says that no books written those days. Yeah, okay. But at full, there are things that we can see as written books. So we can get a lot of information, receive information from them as we receive information from a book. Yeah, that is what he says. Yeah. Fortunately, we have some things which tell us a great deal as well, almost as a book would. We have rocks and mountains and seas and stars and rivers and deserts and fossils of all animals. What is the nature's book? Yeah. We have rocks and mountains and seas and stars and rivers and deserts, and fossils of old animals. Clear? These and other like things, these and other like things, that is similar things. These and other like things are books for the earth's early story. These are the books written for us. Who has written these books? The nature, by the nature, yeah, story. And the real way to understand the story is not merely to read about it in other people's books, but to go to the great book of nature itself. Ah, and the real way to understand this story of what? Story of the earth. The real way to understand the story of the earth is not reading fat books. Basically, yeah, there are books that showing these pieces of evidence. That's it. Books are good, but he says, and the real way to understand the story is not merely to read about in other people's books, but to go to the great book of nature itself. When you go to a river, when you go to Sigiriya, and these places would give you some clues about Earth's history. To understand the story, not merely to read about it in other people's books, but to go to the great books of nature itself, you will, I hope, soon begin to learn how to read this, how to read the story from the rocks and mountains. You will soon learn how to do that. Imagine how fascinating it is. Yeah, how beautiful it is. Every little stone that you see lying in the road or on the mountainside may be a little page in nature's book and may be able to tell you something if you only knew how to read it. I'm reading these letters. They are, it is written in really simple English. I think you must have felt that. The English is really sort of easy mode. Yeah, that is why I have selected this. And he is writing the letters to his daughter Indira Gandhi. Sri Nehru, that is Jawaharlal Nehru, is writing these letters to whom? Indira Gandhi. And the fact itself tells you, the thing itself tells you that they are important. And on the other hand, he's writing not about their lives, he's writing about the world history. And it is another important part of this book. Another thing is very simple language, because Indira Gandhi was 10 years old at that time. Yeah. Now big people read these books. Every little stone that you see lying in the road, every little stone that you see lying in the road, maybe on roads you would see tiny pebbles or rocky parts. Yeah, stone that you see lying in the road or on the mountainside may be a little page in nature's book. A little stone you find would be one page of nature's book. Page in nature's book and may be able to tell you something if you only knew how to read it. But when you find a stone, it is not a page of a book. It would not tell you anything. But if you know how to read it, if you know how to read that book, if you know how to read that page, a specific skill, then you will be able to understand what that page says. The page is the tiny pebble, tiny rocky part. To be able to read any language, very important thing. To be able to read any language, Hindi or Urdu or English, you have to learn its alphabet. To read books, you have to learn, first you have to learn alphabet. E, A, B, C, D, things like that. So, also you must learn the alphabet of nature before you can read her story in her books of stones and rocks. If you are going to learn, if you are going to read the book of nature, you should learn first the alphabet of it. Even now, perhaps, see how beautiful the language is, how beautifully written, and the ideas. Oh, So also you must learn the alphabet of nature before you can read a story in a books of stone and rock. Even now, perhaps you know a little how to read this. Now you know a little. If you see a little round shiny pebble, if you see a little round shiny pebble, so borolukate or something pebble, that is a round sort of stone you find mostly they are in rivers. When you go to a river, you would find tiny pebbles, sort of, they are round in shape. Clear? Yeah. He is talking about a pebble. If you see a little round shiny pebble, does it does it not tell you something? Does it not? Doesn't it? Yeah. Does it not tell you something? Tiny pebble will tell you a lot. How did it get round and smooth and shiny without any corners or rough edges? No rough edges. Sarasparas. Rough edges, corners. No rough corners. It is round. How can that be? Basically, when you hit a big rock, so it goes into pieces. But they are not round. They are basically of rough with sort of very fine edges and pointed parts. You know what I mean. So, but this is round. How can that be? How did it get round and smooth and shiny without any corners or rough edges? If you break a big rock into small bits, if you break a big rock into small bits, each bit is rough and has corners and rough edges. It is big. It is rough and has corners and rough edges. It has corners, it has rough edges, not smooth. It is not at all like a round, smooth pebble at all. No way. It is not just like the smooth pebble. How then did the pebble become so round and smooth and shiny? Originally, when this comes, it is rough with corners, edges, things like that. But how can that be? How, if you know how to read the book of nature, if you know the alphabet, you know you can read that. The tiny pebble would tell you a big story. How then did the pebble become so round and smooth and shiny? It will tell you its story. If you have good eyes to see and ears to hear it, if you have good eyes and good ears to hear it and read it, yeah, you can understand that. It tells you that once upon a time, now the story. It tells you that once upon a time, it may be long, long ago, it was a bit of a rock. The tiny pebble is a part of a huge rock. Just like a bit you may break from a big rock or stone with plenty of edges and corners. When you hit a rock, you would find that tiny bits of rock with edges and corners. It is just like that first. Probably it rested on some mountainside. Maybe first this tiny pebble, round pebble, shiny pebble, it was at the side of a mountain. Yeah, probably it rested on some mountainside. When came the rain and washed it down to a little valley. Yeah, then came the rain. Shh, it rains. And pebble comes down, not pebble, the rocky part with edges and corners, it comes down and washed it down to the little valley. What is valley? Between mountains, you know that. Between mountains, you know, area. This is one mountain, this is another. This is the valley. So, valley between the sort of a plain area, valley. Probably it rested on some mountainside. Then came the rain and washed it down to the little valley between mountains, little valley, where it found a mountain stream. I mean, between mountains, there are streams, water currents, alapara, something like the tiny alapara. Found a mountain stream which pushed it on and on. The water stream, the water current pushed it on and on, pushed the stone on and on. On and on means again and again. Pushed it on and on till it reached a little river. Then finally it comes to a little river. Oh, a part of rock with corners and edges finally comes to a river. And the little river took it into the big river. The little river pushed it on, and finally it comes to the big river. And all the while, yeah, it rolled at the bottom of the river. At the bottom of the river, river and bottom of the river. Bottom, you know what bottom means? Bottom of the river. And all the while it rolled at the bottom of the river, and its edges were worn away. Its edges were worn away. Wearing and tearing, worn. You understand worn? When you wear slippers, at some time you see that they are worn. No rough edges. When you just look at the lower side of it, yeah, and you would find no rough edges, the patterns found when you started wearing it. Yeah, you cannot find them because worn out, wearing out, something like that. And the little river took it into the big river, and all the while it rolled at the bottom of the river, and its edges were worn away, and its rough surfaces made smooth and shiny. So it became the pebble that you see. Finally, edges are worn away, and finally it becomes smooth. And finally, after millions of years, you find the tiny pebble, not within 1 month. Clear, yeah. And all the while it rolled at the bottom of the river, and its edges were worn away, and its rough surface made smooth and shiny. So it became the pebble that you see. Somehow the river left it behind. Somehow the river left it behind. Leave something behind. Leave it behind. Damayano. Leave it behind. Don't leave me behind. Mavadalyan Nepa. Something like that. If you leave something behind, you put it somewhere and you go away. Yeah. So the river has left it behind. That is when river is pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. At one point, river says, you be there, I'm going. Yeah. So that is the nature of water. So it became the pebble that you see somehow the river left it behind. And you found it. If the river had carried it on, it would have become, now you have the pebble. The river left it behind. Now it is here. So say in Kaluthara, you find, not Kaluthara, in Ratnapura you would find Galkate at Ratnapura, Kaluganga. And if the river does the same thing again and again, I mean rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling, finally it becomes smaller. The pebble becomes smaller. If the river had carried it on, it would have become smaller and smaller till at last it became a grain of sand. Finally, it becomes a grain of sand. Grain of sand. Tiny, sand. Grain of sand is one part of sand. Well, you get a grain of sand. And joined its brothers at the seaside to make a beautiful beach. So what happens? Finally, the pebble becomes a tiny grain of sand, and then it joins its brothers brothers at the seaside. When you go to seaside, you find a lot of sand. So it joins its brothers and at the seaside to make a beautiful beach. To make a beautiful beach. The galkate, the pebble, becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and finally it becomes a sand, tiny grain of sand, and it joins brothers and sisters at the beach. Another thing, at the beach, make a beautiful beach where little children can play and make castle out of the sand. The Velikate, join its brothers to make a beautiful beach so that you can make sand castles. For small children, the beach. See how he is somehow trying to give the beautiful idea that, I mean, beach is for children and we should learn them about how beach is made. Oh, nice. Where the children can play and make castles out of the sand. Yeah, last paragraph. If a little pebble can tell you so much, if a little pebble can can tell you so much, how much more could we learn from all the rocks and mountains? If a little pebble tells you such a story, when you think about the large mountains, rocks, and all the other things, yeah, how much more could we learn from all the rocks and mountains and the many other things we see around us? That is the thing. It's a really important 30 um, chapters. Very nice. I thought of reading one chapter for you. And if you Google Nehru letters from father to his daughter, you would find this book and you can read it. Clear? So, I don't explain things away that much as I was doing stories, and I think that would be a good thing for you. I need your comments and share the video and give us a like and press the bell icon and subscribe. Most importantly, and notifications. Yeah, press notifications so that you receive my videos when I upload them. Okay, going to wind up this first chapter. Bye.